Hola, buenas noches. Good evening. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to En Casa con La Plaza, Dan Guerrero Happy Hour with guest Susie Garcia. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties in connecting to our Facebook stream, but I think we made it happen. So maybe it's the cold weather, maybe it's that time of year, who knows, but we are here. I'd like to thank our sponsors for En Casa con La Plaza, Dan Guerrero Happy Hour, Kaiser Permanente, and Union Pacific Foundation. Also, of course, our staff and the Board of Trustees at La Plaza who make this all happen. Before we get started, just want to share with you some things that are happening at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. I'm going to share the screen here and see if I could find my document. Okay, first of all, coming up this Saturday, it's Internacional Día de la Lengua Materna, Territory, and the Next Generation. It's a program that we're doing with Cielo, which is the Comunidades Indigentes de Liderazgo, Cielo. It's with Pat Boy Rap Maya, Jesus Pat Chablé, commonly known by his stage name Pat Boy Rap Maya, or Pat Boy, is a Mexican rapper of Maya heritage who often sings in the Yucatec Maya language. He's one of the leaders in the Maya language rap in Mexico, one of the founders and producers of ADN Maya Films, a record label for other Maya language musicians. And it starts at 3:30, goes on till 5, 3:30 to 3:45, a marimba band, and then a conversation with Pat Boy Rap Maya along with Alba Gonzalez. And then finally a 4:20 to 4:40, a performance by Pat Boy, followed by a closing dance of the Yucatan Peninsula. That should be fantastic. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be raining, but this is going to be held indoors, and you're going to be warm, and with other aficionados of the rap game. And I didn't tell you, but Rap Boy Pat Maya was featured on the soundtrack of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I hope you saw that movie. It was incredible. So that's going to happen on this Saturday at 3:30 there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Also at happening at La Plaza Cocina that same day from 2 to 4. It's a cooking demo. Besito de Nuez cookies. It's a cooking demo. It's a shortbread cookies that can melt in your mouth. It's free of charge. You can come in from 2 to 4 p.m. and listen to the baker talking about it, and then sample some on your own. So go check out the Besitos de Nuez there at La Cocina, then come on over at 3:30 to enjoy Pat Boy Rap Maya. All right, tonight it's a special one with Dan Guerrero Happy Hour. Unfortunately, Dan isn't live today. Well, he is alive, but he's not with us live. We pre-recorded this session with his special guest because Dan happens to be in Sedona, Arizona, at the Sedona Film Festival, where he's doing the screening of the documentary which he and Nancy de los Santos produced about his father, Lalo Guerrero, the father of Chicano music. So that's what's happening. He had the first screening today, which was sold out. Has another one by popular demand on Saturday, also sold out. So Dan isn't with us today, but we pre-recorded his conversation with Susie Garcia. So without further ado, as they say, I'm going to go ahead and get it started. It's pre-recorded, but enjoy. So sharing sound, optimizing for video clip, sharing the screen, and here we go. All right, we'll see you in a little while. So welcome again to this pre-recorded happy hour with Dan Guerrero. And what will a Dan Guerrero happy hour be without Dan Guerrero himself? So zoom in, Dan.
Consider me zoomed. Consider me zoomed. Well, as usual, La Plaza is doing incredible programming. You guys are on fire always, right?
Oh, we sure are. And we got more coming in the days ahead. And, check out the website anytime at lapca.org, and you'll get the full rundown on what's going on.
And we should maybe reiterate, although we think everybody knows, but I still have people asking that, oh, I missed last night. I wish I'd seen it. They're all available on the La They're all available on the La Plaza website and YouTube, and they're archived forever.
Yeah.
So you can always look at one if you miss the live Zoom. So I guess that's it. So should we just jump in, or do you want to say something festive?
Oh, jump right in, because I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh yeah, she's a bubbly one, this one, right?
Oh yeah, and she's graced our stage and her group Las Colibrí many, many times. We love having her here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll see. Oh, he's gone. Wow, that was fast. Well, my guest tonight firmly believes that if you are not laughing, smiling, dancing when she's on stage, then she has not done her job. Music is music to her ears. She grew up with mariachi fan parents, and she was already playing the violin when she was just a kid. I mean, really young, which led to a dazzling career in a generally male-oriented genre. So we're going to talk about that and lots of other things. So I think I should just bring her on, right? So zoom in, Suzanne, aka Susie. There she is, Garcia. How are you?
Dan. Oh,
Wow.
I'm great. You know, best that can be, you know, in my 40s. Living life, you know, made a big change.
And two babies and two little kids. We're going to talk about them later, but you know, you listen, you are a dynamo. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. And I've never seen you that you weren't doing what you're doing now. You're always smiling, and we've worked together a few times. So I've seen you under pressure and with 29 things, and you just float through and you never lose your cool. I assume it's drugs.
That or lots of tequila, I'm not sure.
Good girl, but really, so I'm so happy you're here. Thank you very much. So you did grow up in a mariachi music loving household and born and raised in LA. That ain't so unusual if you're in a Mexican American family. But your parents, tell me a little bit about your parents.
Yes, my parents are born in Los Angeles. So I think that's one of my favorite little, you know, tidbits about my life, because people assume many times that when you're a mariachi, you either, you know, immigrated here or your parents were mariachis too, or that they were like, you know, immigrants as well. But I have the, you know, I'm so proud to be a daughter of a Chicano family, because they are Chicanos. My dad considers himself a Chicano. He marched, you know, in LA, at UCLA as well. I'm just born and raised right there in Frogtown, both of them. So that's a very cool piece of history, living in Chavez Ravine, ultimately seeing themselves, Dodger Stadium be built. My dad wasn't necessarily displaced, but you know, he went to Cathedral High School. My mom went to Marshall High School. These are LA kids that really were influenced by a lot of music and their own, you know, parents who immigrated here. All my abuelos son de Mexico. But when they got here, you know, they were also, my grandma was very young. So she pretty much her dad was a Californiano. So really, we have roots in the United States here.
Before that border
right. And you would like to know this, my grandmother is actually from Sonora, so she was in Arizona, you know, for the very, you know, early years of her life, and then came to LA later. And then my other grandparents, my grandfather served in the army here. So again, very American, I feel like, you know, like they weren't citizens, but they became very American. My other grandfather came here late, so he had a very thick accent. He looked like an Aztec Indian to me, you know, like he was so dark. I don't know how we all came out with his white skin, but you know, it's just the beauty of genetics and the beauty of saying that even though I'm light skinned, soy mexicana, you know, my grandmother is from Sonora, so she has, you know, this beautiful pearly white skin. May she rest in peace. All of them, all my grandparents have passed now, but they left my parents with like the love for culture and the love for music. And because of that, they bestowed all of that appreciation for mariachi, especially. But, you know, we grew up listening to my mom. I remember her favorite record was Linda Ronstadt, Nelson Riddle. You know, so I listened to that, you know, jazz a lot. My mom helped my dad way back in the 70s when he was teaching at Cathedral High School. she helped him with all the musicals that they produced at,
Mm.
yeah, over there at Cathedral High School that were big things. You know, they were big events here in Los Angeles. And she helped choreograph a lot of those musicals. My dad was just like the teacher that took on the theater department, you know, so they were into production and theater. And, you know, I think those things just like, I never saw one of their productions. Obviously, they were younger. And when I was born, they weren't doing those things anymore. But I think like all of that energy or that spirit, right, lives in your children, which we're seeing now, right? Having my own children.
So even though your parents were not professional entertainers and were in the entertainment industry, they had it in them from the beginning. So it's not surprising. So I'm guessing that the first time you heard a mariachi must have been on a record. So do you remember the first time you saw a live performance and how that affected you?
Yeah, I think actually my first, you know, exposure to mariachi was probably actually like live. You know, you think about being a little baby at the weddings, the quinceaneras, like I for sure had a live experience with mariachi when I was little. And the majority of my memories being a little kid are live, like in restaurants, like El Rey that was in Montebello. My mom, you know, and it was so like dark and the red, you know, leather couch,
Yeah.
you know, the booth and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I have like very faint memories of those things, but being in these mariachi restaurants, loud and crazy, but my parents would take us. So I think those were also like things that are just, you know, lived with me until they were fans, so big fans of mariachi that they used to go to the mariachi festival in Tucson since its inception, which is
Oh,
over
yeah. People
50
would come
years.
from all over the Southwest to
Right.
the Tucson, which was the first. That was the first big mariachi conference. Was it?
Exactly. So they were such fans of the music and of Camperos, of Vargas, of you know, Mariachi Cobre that
Yeah.
they would pilgrimage, you know, with their friends, and they would just have a ton of fun and leave us behind. But my dad used to have a super VHS video camera, and he would come back with all these videos and say, "Look, Susie, don't you want to?"
Illegal. Call the policia.
Yeah.
I remember being at one Tucson once, which was pretty great because it was my dad, Vicky Carr, and Linda Ronstadt. They were the headliners, and they did numbers together. I mean, those conferences were amazing. They were historic. When did you first start to notice that they were all men in mariachis?
Well, I gotta say, I mean, from the time I was younger, Linda Ronstadt was already, you know, big.
Doing
What
canciones.
I can remember, right? I mean, I was a little girl. So although the men were very much mariachis, my first teacher was a woman. So, you know, yes, we saw a lot of men and they were dominating. Yes, we saw 1, 2, you know, plus the singers that were Vicky Carr and Ronstadt that were very big at the time. Aida Cuevas was younger too, but that I saw at the festivals, right? My mom and dad, I'm looking around because they have every single poster in their house. I'm at my parents' house today, and they have every single poster from, you know, that they could ever collect. So we have a gallery of Tucson International Mariachi artwork.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I was looking for the poster that you were referring to with Linda Ronstadt and Vicky Carr.
It must have been in the she hadn't done canciones yet, I don't think.
Okay.
It was before. Or maybe she had. No, I don't think she had. I don't know. It's all mariachis are all. Huh?
Back to Linda Ronstadt. I mean, I think that was just such a part of my youth, you know, hearing her CD a million times, you know, my mom, or it wasn't a CD, it was a tape probably then. And the influence of women were already present. Laura Garcia Cano Sobrino was my first mariachi teacher.
Oh, legendary.
Well, I love. My first teacher was from the Camperos, Juan Jose Almaguer, and he didn't speak any English, and I was a monolingual English speaker. I didn't speak Spanish because my parents were Chicano, so they really knew Spanish, but they really weren't speaking it in the house ever. Right. And with my grandparents, they already spoke English, so we just didn't have that experience in terms of a lot of Spanish in the household. But they still love their culture, and they still love the music, and they still, you know, bestowed that like love for to me. And I mean, my first teacher didn't speak Spanish. And I told my mom, I was crying. I was like, Mom, I just don't understand him. And I can't read music that well. And I'm just like, I was so nervous. And I just said, please, can you find, I want to do this. Cause she asked me, would you like to play for your grandmother's 50th anniversary? And I said, yes, I will do it. I want to play with the mariachi. I had played violin since I was 6 and I was okay. I liked violin. I didn't like, it wasn't like the passion that some kids say, oh, this is it. I'm just.
It was, we have a photo of you there.
Yeah.
Look at
Oh,
that.
there I am.
There
Yeah.
you are.
So I'm about probably 13. No, I'm probably like 14 years old here. Laura was already my teacher, and I can see this woman in the background. She was a 60-year-old woman that was with us, that we would go learn at Rio Hondo College, maybe Rio Hondo College or Cerritos College. And Laura Garcia Cano would teach there. And my mom would drive me to take classes, and they were all ages from my age, 12 to 14 to 60 years old. And Juanita was a lady that would take guitar. And we were in a little community group in Pico Rivera, with a bunch of people, like old to young, and Laura would teach us songs. We would each give money, and pull our money, and then she would teach us repertoire so we could go out and play as a group. And we went to Tucson as that group when I was about.
Let's talk a little bit mariachi history. The first, in doing some research, the first mention or whatever of mariachis coming into force was in the 1850s. And of course, it was all men, because they're singing in cantinas and there's booze, and it was hardly a place for women. So it wasn't really misogyny. It was really kind of made sense, except for one woman. And I'm sure you didn't know her personally, but Rosa Quirino, who at age 13 joined a male mariachi.
Wow.
A male mariachi, and that was in 1903. And she eventually formed her own group, and she would carry a pistol to protect herself. But yeah, Rosa Quirino, 1903, she was in a male mariachi. So, but I suspect that had you been around in 1903, that probably would have been you. I
got to meet a few women that in Mexico were part of the early women in mariachi, like in the 50s. Magdalena Berrones, she's been, recognized. I went to South by Southwest with a couple other women that were still alive, that were still able to go and play. And Laura Garcia Cano also took these women and they did a performance. It was beautiful to see, just like, the generation gap between us. And know that these women have been around. We didn't really know, right? And in the United States, things started a little later with women in mariachi.
They started much later, because and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the whole female mariachi movement in LA was in the 90s. But you're right, in Mexico City, there started to be female mariachis in the 50s. And some of them would perform at the $1 Million here in LA. So there were female mariachis back in the 50s, which caught me by surprise.
Yeah, and it just kind of lost. I think it's like, I don't know, glitz and glamour perhaps, or it became, like you said, maybe the men just were like putting a kibosh on that. I don't really know that part of it, or why it sort of disappeared for a lot of years before, like a group of women, right? That you see pictures of, that you say, okay, those were women performing for Cine Mexicano or whatever, but they did play their instruments, and later not having this reappear until the Perlitas in Guadalajara, organized and formed in the 90s, or maybe a little bit late 80s even, perhaps.
And then Lucha Villa, she would be in films, and she'd be in full mariachi with a skirt and all that. That had to, was that the 50s? No, I guess she was a little later, Lucha Villa.
Maybe in her younger days, possibly, right? Yeah, maybe a bit of it.
I think in the
70s and 80s were probably her big movies, right?
Yeah.
But things that we weren't really, obviously, women of my, right now in this generation, we weren't necessarily, I don't think, watching those movies. We watch them now. We see them now. We study, those songs now that they were singing on those movies. But to know that existed, way before we were even born, possibly.
Yeah.
it is very remarkable, you know, and is worthy of letting people know that this is not a novelty. I cannot believe at this point in time that people still say, I've never seen an all-female mariachi before. I mean, it kind of blows my mind and a lot of people say that. I mean, almost every performance we have, there is
Really?
that says, this is the first time. So to me, it's still new to people after all these years, after reinas in the United States, in Los Angeles for now over 35 years, that people are still saying, this is my first time.
Let's talk about you and your personal journey to Mariachilandia. You went to UCLA and you were a student member of the mariachi at UCLA, and eventually you went to the university in Mexico City because you wanted to fully immerse yourself in the culture and tradition. Was that really like a life-changing thing for you? Did you really feel?
Yes, Dan, it changed me so much. I feel like I became who I am there. It was the most amazing place. I mean, yeah, I came from a big city, LA, right? But Mexico City, 25 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so vast. And not knowing Spanish, really, right? I mean, I studied it in high school. My family kind of spoke it a little bit, but this was not something that I wasn't dominating the language yet. And I went there with the sole purpose of making sure that I came back to Los Angeles with command of, biliterate. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be biliterate and be able to speak a language that I was feeling like a fraud, a mariachi fraud. I was like, I can sit there, put on this outfit, and I can play my violin and I can sing. And yeah, people pretty much could tell that I wasn't like a native speaker. But in Rust, I wasn't either. So, it was okay. We got away with it. But I felt like something was missing inside my whole heart. And that's why I went to La UNAM, and, the best university in all of Mexico.
And gorgeous. All the murals on the wall.
Oh my gosh. But take away that, these were the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. And I was a student at UCLA. I was young. I turned 19 when I went to La UNAM there, and they literally gave you 50 pesos. UCLA gave you this program, gave you 50 pesos and said, here's your address. We'll see you at school tomorrow. I mean, it was the scariest thing to be in a city and have to be on your own and literally just make your way through the city and figure things out for yourself. I didn't have a family that took me in and helped me through it. So I was immersed completely. But the best thing that I did there for my mariachi career, I think, was I went to see every single place that I could that a mariachi song talked about. So los sones, Camino de Colima, dicen que yo no lo sé. I went to see those, mil altos y bajos. I went to go see the mountains. I went to Camino de Guanajuato. I went to Guanajuato to see what Jose Alfredo was talking about. Camino de Santa Rosa. All those things that you just are singing about, but you don't really understand. When you have the visual, when you really experience those songs the way they were intended, it's like your world changes. You really understand what those composers were trying to say. You put so much more feeling into it because you are excited about telling that story to others.
Your interpretation of those songs had to have changed. It was one thing to sing them and another thing to experience it and then sing. That being said, the audience might not feel the difference, but you did.
But then they do feel the difference, because there's no way you could have those experiences and see the world that way and not have it transmit energetically to your audience. So I am so happy that happened. And of course, I came back writing 20-page papers in Spanish, reading huge novels.
How long were you there, actually? How long did you spend?
6 months, 3 months of intensive language.
Wow.
And then 3 months, like a semester, basically in the University of UNAM with regular professors. You didn't get, you were just in class with every other student that was under the Filosofía y Letras that was studying Spanish literature. So again, going from like, oh, write a 3-page paper at UCLA to write a 20-page paper on, Carlos like Fuentes' this novel. So it was hard. It was hard. It was so difficult, so challenging, but it changed me. And being, a young woman in a huge city, figuring out yourself, your life, and meeting new people from all over the place, those are moments that just changed me completely.
It was a life change, and you crammed a lot into 6 months. Let's talk about the Mariachi Divas. You were with them for almost a decade. And that was one of the first not only all female performers, but run by females and all totally, right? Aren't they one of the earliest of the pioneers?
Yeah, well, we actually had a group right before Divas called Las Alondras. And many of us were already in Adelitas. And that was run by Jose Luis Salinas.
Right.
And may he rest in peace. He passed this past year. And we all came out of that band. We started a new band. And that was all women. We had no musical director. We just said, we could do it. Yes, girl power. We love to be around each other. And a very good friend that was in Adelitas, her name is Dinora Kirkendall. She married an American. She came from Mexico City. So she had all this like star power kind of, she had a lot of experience in music. And we kind of formed these girls, we got all these girls together. We formed a band. We performed at the Hollywood Bowl 2 years as Alondras. And at the end of 1999, we lost our trumpet player and we were looking actively for a new one. And that's where we found Cindy Shea. And then she was a go-getter, man. She just like came into this genre of music and, learned and wanted to do it. And she put her whole self into mariachi music. And our band was just kind of teetering, right? She was in Alondras. And then we just kind of morphed into a new band that ended up being Mariachi Divas under her direction. But, we were all in this path together over those years in the end of the 90s. And, it was a great ride. We created more women power. Cindy took it to the next level. A lot of us were working, we were studying, we were, we didn't really see, I think, mariachi music as a full-on profession. Women were still, I didn't, I was going to school, I was doing a lot of other things. I always saw it as my hobby, what I love to do, my passion. I feel like Divas was the first group that was women run, women led, women run. And it was full force. Like, we will be, on stage with Mariachi Vargas. We will be, and we did this, all of us as performers in that group did that. We created that level, for ourselves.
That was a very rich time in the 90s here in LA. Was this happening in other cities, or was it primarily LA centered?
I feel at that time, because Reinas had just come out in 1994. I auditioned for Reinas. I was young. I wasn't prepared enough to be in Reinas, but it was, all these girls were starting to get the idea, like, I better practice more. I better like learn to sing. I actually was actively, all these girls were starting to get so.
Well, and as you say, that it's a real profession. Before, you loved it, you were doing it, but now you could see for the first time, I could be a real professional, and it could be my life, my career.
And Divas, they end up getting a Disney contract. We were there at Disneyland, and then it was like, Cindy introduced this idea that we would record, and then we got a Grammy, and like, there were one thing after another. It's like we just kept raising the bar. And yes, girls in Texas started to form. I felt like, after that, when you got into the 2000s, more and more girl groups were starting to appear everywhere in the country. More specifically in Texas, I feel like there's more of them there, and LA, and then Mexico. But really, it's been like the last 10 years, I feel like now it's a boom. Now it's like, there's so many now prepared women musicians because of Reinas, because of Divas, that show that you can support yourself doing music. And before, we didn't have that real we didn't have those role models. You know, we had maybe one or two,
Of course.
right? And we just didn't. I think also the level of professionalism in their own instrument and their own voice, like really, really putting the time into making that their craft, started, you know, everybody started to raise the bar. So you had to study more.
And then your personal Super Bowl, you founded the Colibrí in 2009, an all-female, all-string ensemble, not a trumpet in sight. And I'm sure you could have found one, but let's take a look. Tell us why no trumpet, and tell us how Colibrí came to be.
Yes. Well, you know, I was kind of struggling with not being a diva anymore, you know, after a decade. You know, you just like, you become this, I was so dedicated, right? This was who I was. I mean, I loved this group. And when the time came that I wasn't in it anymore, I think I was just like, what do I do? I created my own solo CD. I mean, Esa Güerita, look it up on YouTube, iTunes, everyone. It's on platforms, Spotify. You can go to Spotify and hear this, my first baby, which was my CD called Esa Güerita. I wrote a few songs. I kind of went through this like self-exploration of who am I now 10 years later, after being dedicated to a group, you know, an organized group for so long, and now feeling like you're a professional, right? Now I've been on stage with Vargas, I've been on stage with Camperos. We've really, you know, created a name for myself. People knew who I was, right? You know, to a certain point, you're almost famous. And then I had also Grammy, right? I mentioned that we won the regional Mexican album in 2008. Right. So right. I recorded on a Grammy winning album. Amazing. So now what do you do? And so I just like, I made my album, and then I was in a restaurant, and they were just asking me like, can't you put together something like, Susie, like we want to see you in mariachi, you know, yes, you're doing your solo thing, but we want to see you back in mariachi. And so I thought, okay, well, let me get some of my friends together. We can do this at a restaurant. And 4 of us got together. And the lack of trumpet at the beginning was because me and Lorraine, one of my best friends, you know, we were 2 violins. We needed a bass and we needed a guitar. So there wasn't room for 4 girls at this restaurant. There wasn't room for a trumpet. And besides that, still at the time, what did I say? Now we're almost 15 years ago, you know, women weren't a lot of trumpet players. Where was I going to find them? You know, and then the loudest instrument in your band, if it's not really great, you know, when you only have 4 or you only have 5, it was a decision that I had to make, I think, you know, for the band itself, and realizing, looking at videos, looking at pictures and saying, Mariachi Vargas never had a trumpet forever. Like,
right. I was going to say, I always thought it was a conscious decision that you wanted to return to that early mariachi world when they didn't have trumpets.
Well, again, it was just like the idea of like, do we need them? Like, I don't miss them that much, right? Like hearing mariachi without a trumpet, first of all, and then you're like, oh, I forgot that I don't have you know, people weren't like noticing it so much. Like they weren't saying, well, where's your trumpet? It was just like, okay, you guys play with that one. And then to look at and realize, well, there's a lot of recordings where there is no trumpet. So what's the problem? Like, can we go back to that? And that's where I felt like, yeah, why not? And what are the things that are going to set me apart from all these other bands?
I was going to ask, are there any other all-string ensembles? Because it's fantastic and it's unique. I don't know if there are other ones or if you're the sole one.
I think there's a group called Las Azaleas in Tucson, or I think they're from Tucson or Arizona. I think they've kind of, you know, also went that route and there's many smaller groups now of women that are not using trumpets. Mariachi Grupo Bella, not mariachi. They're not mariachi. ASLA, like a lot of groups began to say, you know, I mean, ASLA is not necessarily mariachi, but they do play mariachi, you know, some tunes. They're like bolero. They have a lot of eclectic. They're wonderful too. But, you know, I think the boom of women in general, we started to open our eyes and keep an open mind about what kind of ensemble that is culturally important, that we can have a voice in LA, what is this going to sound like? It doesn't have to sound like every other mariachi.
But it's not, well, I'm talking about, let's talk two things, the sound and the because even the costumes are unique. You're not wearing what you expect, you know, the women in the black skirts, and it's a mariachi outfit, but but the costumes are unique. Tell me about the costumes and how you chose them and why.
Another sort of, I think another way that I thought we could, well, there's two sides to that. First and foremost, I love the traje de charro. It is such an important piece of being a mariachi. I'm like 100% committed to the fact that the traje de charro also has had its evolution in mariachi. So you look back at pictures, it didn't always look the same. It's become more adorned and, you know, and about all the you know, the ties to Spain, right? It looks like the matador, and
Sure.
you know, we have this culture, you know, that has shaped Mexican culture also and has contributed. And then we had charros and how the male, right, has evolved in the way they look. The women have also evolved, but it's very constraining the way that you have to walk, and
heavy. Those
there's like 5 layers of clothes that you have to put on, you know, like the boots and the skirt and, you know, your undergarments, and then like a full collared shirt. I mean, even in normal life, women aren't dressing like that with 12 layers on them typically. So, I mean, it was very uncomfortable to me all the time to be, I sweat.
You're very physical, and
I'm very physical. I put 120% into my performances. It's true. Right. People who watch me know it's like, it's all or nothing. So I was always sweating, and it was so, my hair, it was like wet. I was just,
let's cut to the chase. Your hair was important to you.
Yes, this is not, and your makeup sweating up. And I thought, in the lights, you know, think about being on stage, you know what that's like, the theater lights. And it just was not, you know, how can I dance and do all the things, mariachi divas, right? How can we do all of our cumbias and stuff? And I just felt very constrained as a woman. And I felt, like, how can I play the music I love and be comfortable, but feminine, and feel like the woman that I am? And I want to be to my audience. I want men and women to feel empowered. So women will be empowered. They'll love it because you see so much femininity, the flowers, the curled hair, the makeup, the, you know, and be in this beautiful outfit that no matter where we go, this is the focal like discussion, your outfit, and that look so culturally appropriate for what we do. Right? I mean, we are a walking fiesta. We are a walking like representation of Mexican culture. And that is something to be proud of. You know, I think so. That was really part of the thought process.
Now, are these outfits from a different region of Mexico, or you just created the look? I mean,
well, I think there is a woman here in Los Angeles. Her name's Juanita Lopez, and she is a folklorico seamstress. She really is a folklorico dancer. She's been here all her life. She's from, you know, Santa Paula, and she came down to, she teaches at Plaza de Raza. She's, you know, a staple here in Los Angeles. And I met her and I said, you know, Juanita, it's time. Like, I had already bought some dresses in different colors. So the colorful thing, I'll explain that really quickly. In my mind, it was like each girl, I love that everybody looks uniform, right? That's what mariachi is. Everybody looks uniform, but sometimes you can get lost in the uniformity, you as an individual. So how do you become an individual in this place where you all look exactly the same? And you know, it's an interesting thing to think about. But I thought, if everybody has their own color, you know, that gives them a sense of, then the color they want, you know, not the one that I say you have to have. It's like, do you love purple? Well, wear purple because you're going to be so happy wearing your purple skirt. I wanted pink. I wanted red. I wanted something bright and bubbly like I am. So I think it gave everybody a chance to be who they are, and to be proud to be part of a collective, but keep something that's individualistic.
That's individual to you.
Yeah. So that's my take on the different colors, and plus a colibri, hello, has, it's a colibri, you never find the same color of a colibri. So that made sense.
Hummingbird, for any gringos watching, hummingbird, colibri.
Right, or chuparrosa. And
Chuparosa.
yeah, so that magical sense of the whole band, the name, the colors, the outfits.
And you move like a hummingbird on speed. I mean, oh my God. When I saw you at you have a long relationship with the John Anson Ford Theater, I know. In fact, we have you and your hubby, Pepe, who we're going to meet in a few minutes. I'm excited. Pepe Martinez Jr. Do we have that photo, or am I calling it in the wrong time? Oh, there we are. That's at the John Anson Ford.
Yes.
Right.
And I got to sing with him there, and that was a beautiful moment. We are looking forward to our new project, which you will hear about soon, and hopefully get to hear soon in the next year. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yes, I mean, what were we talking about?
We were talking about your partnership. I'm exhausted. You're exhausting me. Yeah, please. Maybe that'll slow you down a bit.
Oh yeah.
Let's
the Ford.
We're talking about the Ford and your relationship.
I sang with Pepe, I changed. I went to Colibri. I came back, and yes, I'm producing the whole show. So yes, there's a lot of things that I'm doing.
And Pepe, we should add, we're going to meet him, as I said, in a minute, but he is true mariachi royalty. I mean, he is, because his dad, Pepe Martinez Sr., the Vargas musical director, composer, amazing man. And I'm looking forward to seeing him come, because we've worked together a couple of times. It'll be good to see him. But now let's talk about one more thing before we bring Pepe out, and that's education, music education for children, which you're very big on, as am I. And I know you did create La Jovencitas for a bit, and then the COVID came. And what's happening with you working with children?
Yeah, so there's two parts of that also. The one thing that we keep doing is kid shows. So we, all year we are doing so many festivals for schools, schools that have Springs festivals, Dia de los Muertos festivals, you name the festivals that they have, they're definitely calling graduations. It's a special thing for both boys and girls, young kids, to see all female musicians all the time, right? All female sports, female sports figures, female musicians, and then something from their culture as well. I do so many things with education. I come from an education background. I have a master's in counseling. I was a counselor by trade. I don't do that right now. I don't practice counseling now, but my dad.
Except at home. Home.
A lot of that.
That's what mamas do. That's what mamas do.
But I'm dedicated to bilingual education, biliteracy, dual language. I still sell materials for school districts in that education field. But our Colibri, we are so happy to do all of these kid shows or matinees. Even for high school, we do it all. So we are going to do a matinee. It's sold out already at the Soraya. We're doing 2 matinees coming up for Women's History Month in March. So that's coming up very soon. And we do, again, all those things everywhere. The Children's Center in Pasadena, we just did that for Dia de los Muertos. That was beautiful. But I love to be with the kids. I mean, this is your best audience of the world. They're just.
Well, that's your future audience and your future mariachis,
Yeah. So going back to Jovencitas, we had a group of girls. I did kind of like a audition, and we auditioned girls, me and Cindy Reifler, who's a teacher at UC Riverside in mariachi, and she's just like one of the original reinas de Los Angeles, and she teaches at Cal State LA. So we got together and we wanted to make a place where young girls from San Fernando to San Bernardino would come together, and we would give them instruction and make them a group. And we did. We have 2 years at the Ford Theater where they played and they were showcased, and then COVID hit. So there were various. I'm not a nonprofit. Colibri Entertainment is not a nonprofit. So one is space money, all those things that you need to do to keep to have for a program like this to stay on its feet. And then again, we were doing it free just because we wanted to, because we want to encourage girls to stick with their instruments, to love this music as much as we do. And we need a future. We need musicians out here. So we wanted to start to cultivate that our own self with just women. I taught at an all-girls Catholic school, Spanish, in Pomona. And, you know, it is an amazing thing that happens when girls can be around girls, women can be around women, and just create and not feel, you know, the pressure or embarrassed, especially at the younger ages, when they, and be, you know, well, I play vihuela, but this guy plays maybe better, or he strums harder, and then you just kind of melt into the background, you know. So what happens when you don't have somebody that plays stronger than you or that's bigger than you? You have to step up. So that's what happens when you're in a, you know, when you're with all girls, is that you all have to do your part. And that's what I feel like is the mantra in Colibrí. We all have to do our part. We don't have a trumpet. We can't hide, and we got to put every bit of ourselves forward, and we have to use everybody's voices all at the same time to create these beautiful melodies and harmonies for mariachi music. And the girls that I'm recruiting now are just younger. You know, I'm working with younger girls that were jovencitas maybe, and now are ready to join Colibrí. There's various.
Wow.
There's a lot of kids that were coming from Plaza de la Raza that had been there since like 7 years old, and now are older. You know, Stacy was, you know, my most fiel. She was like the most, you know, longest running Colibrí, and she just went on to Palmdale. I encouraged her to finish her degrees. All of my girls are like, you know, they need to finish school, they need to get their masters, and they need to go and fulfill their dreams, you know, professionally. I have policemen, but these are now, instead of having jovencitas, I really am just focusing on trying to recruit and work with younger girls until I have a big nonprofit and I have all this money, and then I can do that again. And after my kids are grown, because I had 2 babies I had 1 baby in the process of jovencitas, and it was just a reality that I was taking Estrella to the, you know, to the Saturdays that we would bring these girls together, and it just, once they get walking, it's almost impossible.
Forget it from there. I think we should bring on Pepe, but before we do, I do want to give him a proper introduction. I saw him in the mirror lurking about. Is he nearby? And is he ready?
Right here. I'm going to move.
No, but let me introduce him first.
Okay.
And you stay, Mija. You're not going away. You'll just both be there. So Jose Pepe Martinez Jr. was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, and you don't get more mariachi than that. He was only 6 years old when his dad joined the Vargas. They moved to Mexico City, and by the time he was 7, he already had learned the piano and the fundamentals of music. At age 15, he joined the Mariachi Juvenil, the young Mariachi Tecalitlan, as a violinist, and he was off and running. So he lives up to a truth that he believes I love, and you probably know this. He has said, devote yourself body and soul to your music. It's something you obviously have lived with as well. So let's bring on the maestro, Pepe. ¿Dónde estás, Pepe?
Aquí estoy, Dan.
There you are. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You?
Pues aquí en la lucha, you know.
Bueno. Todo el mundo luchando.
Listen, I would assume your 2 little children have not a prayer of not going into the family business, right?
Yeah.
Well, Estrella had her first violin lesson last week, and she's a natural. I mean, what can we say? She was playing those, you know, strings as if she had lessons for, you know, a while. So we do have these hopes. They sing. Oh my gosh, they sing and they sing and they sing. So I think it's pretty much a done deal. They're gonna.
How old are the kids now, Pepe? How old are they?
5 años, Estrella Martínez. 5 años.
¿Ya 5?
Ya 5 años.
Wow.
Y Sonny Boy tiene 2 años, 2 meses.
Yeah.
So 5-year-old or 2-year-old, that's it, right? No
That's it.
more, no more
No
kids.
more, no more. No more money.
No,
No, that's right. Oh my God. Olvídate. I know. The first time, well, we worked together twice. We worked together with the Cruzar la Cara de la Luna, an opera that your father wrote, which was so magnificent, at the Soraya. We love Thor and the Soraya. And Pepe, you were the musical director. And we also worked at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes when I did the Linda Ronstadt tribute. I think we have a great photo of you with your mariachi, Pepe. Do we have that, Abelardo?
No, we took it out. I don't have it, Dan.
Oh, okay. There's a photo of you with, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so you have your own mariachi. Tienes el mariachi ya, well, now a few years, pero la primera vez, the very first time I saw your mariachi, the one you put together was at the Ford. And in fact, Thor from the Soraya was there that same night. We were together there. And Susie was pregnant. So the Colibrí, you were pregnant and moving around like you were not. And tu mariachi, que se llama, tell us the name of the mariachi. ¿Cómo se llama?
Mariachi Ángeles de Pepe Martínez Jr.
It was, and I believe that was the first time, primera vez que estaban tocando, ¿verdad? That was the first
Sí,
time.
primera vez en ese escenario en el Ford, ya.
They were unbelievable. It's like they had been playing for years together. It was incredible. It really was incredible.
Estudiábamos 3 días por semana, 3, 4 días por semana.
yeah.
Porque me dijiste que nomás 3 meses algo from the audition to the performance, instant. Wow.
Yeah, well, it says you really make your money in rehearsal. That's where you make money in in this business, not on stage. I love
And
that.
you're a smart businesswoman, that's for sure, right?
Well, you know, I started, my dad was a salesperson for Hope Mifflin Company, which is a educational materials. I inherited his job after he retired. And he retired a little early because of health issues. But, you know, I learned a lot about business, you know, and how to sell and be out there and get customers.
You can't just
basically, right. I'm just like I'm an extrovert. And
no, I always found you so shy.
But
No puede hablar al público tan retirada. Yeah.
But more than anything, Dan, I think it's like, you know, my passion. We didn't talk about the fact that I went to Ashland, Oregon, and I acted. Took Las Colibrí early in 2010. We went to Ashland and we performed 110 times on a theater production. But when I went there, I was like, wow, this is production. Like, this is high level production that I had never been a part of. And I came back thinking, why can't everything we do be a high level like that? Like mariachi shows, or, you know, I want to be part of that always. I want to feel like our music is as important as a Shakespeare play, you know, that people are going to see. And it should be.
It is the production that I emceed. You guys, we had a storyline, Pepe con su cachucha y todo, y cantaron, and you know, it wasn't solely mariachi. You did lots of things that night. That was high level production for sure.
So I just think, like, businesswoman, yes, I have vision. I want to make change. I want to all the things that, you know, are dreams. They're big dreams. But I decided to act on them. And many people should when they have like a passion. And I just didn't sit there thinking, oh, that would be great. Oh, that would be great. I just came back to LA after Ashland and said, I'm going to produce now. And 12 years later, 12 shows later, you know, and I've learned so much from my colleagues. I've learned so much from this man since he came, you know, into my life, and he's helped Colibrí raise our bar and our music level. And I'm so grateful to that. And I help him. So this little, you know, team we make here in LA has been awesome. I mean, we really are lucky.
¿Y ya tienen cuántos años maridos?
Vamos a cumplir 6 años.
Oh, well,
Sí, vamos a cumplir 6.
as long as Estrella's been around.
Vamos con Estrella, sí. Estrella cumple 6, vamos a cumplir 6. Así no me pierdo, Dan.
Pero ya dos, ya no más, porque, oh my God.
No
Pero
más.
sales mucho de la ciudad con el mariachi. Do you travel with the mariachi a lot?
No, no, no. Lo bueno es que ahora que no estoy en el Mariachi Vargas, ya estoy más con mi familia y si quiero salir, me los llevo. O
Yes.
sea, vamos
We
juntos,
try
me llevo a
to-
mis
Con el
niños.
mariachi tuyo,
Sí,
ya.
ya somos los jefes, pues ya podemos
Right.
Ajá.
decidir qué hacer,
We
¿no?
can bring them, but I mean, I think all of that is open. Of course, like I said, we had these beautiful children, and it's kind of, we made decisions so that we're not traveling all the time, but that doesn't mean we won't. The sky is the limit. I think Pepe, we got cut off with Mariachi Angeles specifically, like they were, really moving, and then COVID hit. So we gotta, it's everybody right now in Mariachi world rebuilding, finding the LA space in LA for big groups, big professional groups. Even space for that is like, after COVID has been difficult.
Yeah.
Majority of people are not hiring a band of 12, right? They're
Oh.
hiring bands of smaller sizes, but that is like a direct, a product, or what do you say? A direct result of a COVID,
Sure. It was a game changer for sure. ¿Y cuántos en el mariachi de Ángeles? How many are there? 15?
No, there's still
No,
12.
12.
12.
And Las Colibrí, was bigger, and now it's sort of, shrunk a little too. But again, by choice, you realize what, sometimes less is more. And
Listen, that's happening in every theater now, that you can't write a play with 20 characters. Now they wanted 4 or 5 characters, it's economics, it's all kinds of stuff. It is.
Well, hopefully we'll get back there, like I said, hopefully LA is ready to, embrace, again, all of these concerts and things. I feel it happening. I definitely feel it happening. It's just going to be a little bit more time. And in the meantime, we will keep working on our beautiful, music and projects.
Mm-hmm.
You are a match made in mariachi heaven, and that's all there is to that, right?
Yeah,
Todo fue en las estrellas. Ya sé que tienes una niña estrella, pero todo salió de las
Yeah,
estrellas.
I was looking at pictures from the first time I've ever performed at the Hollywood Bowl. Rodri from Mariachi USA did a tribute to women in mariachi. I was 14 years old. There was a bunch of girls that we got together on this stage, and I looked at a picture that they had us do. And there's Pepe on one side, and here's me as a younger girl on the other. His dad is there. I have a picture that year with his dad. And I was just so like, wow, right? Vargas was my idol all my life. I used to walk the Bruin walk all to my classes with my Walkman and Fiesta del Mariachi, on my ears the whole time. So, it's interesting, right? That you end up, years later, married with kids and on a different journey. But I'm so happy.
I'm so happy to have had you both here. Gracias por estar aquí, Pepe. Ojalá nos vemos en persona. Maybe I'll come to the Soraya. When is your event?
Okay, well, that's a full-on matinee for children, for kids. It's all educational based, so that's not going to be public. There are already reservations for that, so you'll see on the website that it's sold out, or already reserved.
I'll call Thor. Squeeze me in.
And then, Colibrí is going to be a lot of places starting in March. We always do so much for the community. Plaza de Cultura y Artes always has this there. So make sure you look, I'm sure we'll be.
I assume all that is on your website, on the Colibrí website.
Yeah, lascolibri.com or colibríentertainment.com. We'll see where Viva la Tradición ends up in 2023. I may take a break. I'm not sure that I'm going to come back to the Ford. We're waiting to find out more details of what my options are. But please, if you're a Viva la Tradición fan, just stick with our web pages. We'll be back soon. We just don't know what the details are yet. We might just be relocating to a new theater, but we love our fans. We love that people have supported my journey and now Pepe's journey in Los Angeles. And you are one of those people, Dan. Plaza de Cultura y Artes, thank you so much for your support and your continued belief in what we do.
For sure. It will continue. Abelardo, you want to come and say goodbye to our pals here?
Oh, yes. Goodbye, but we'll see you real soon because you graced our stage last year with a homenaje a Vicente Fernandez. You're here
Yes.
for one of our family days, and we really appreciate you coming down and really not just entertaining, but also educating the attendees because we really remarkable musicians and remarkable educators and remarkable people. So thank you very much for joining us on Dan Guerrero's Happy Hour.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we'll see you soon. Gracias, Pepe.
Thank you.
Nos vemos pronto.
Besos, besos, Dan. Muy
Bye,
bonita camisa,
Abelardo.
muy bonita camisa, muy bonita camisa.
Oh, gracias.
Bueno.
Bueno, para tuyo. Yep. Not bad.
Cheers,
Pero-
everyone.
but I don't play the violin. A los
Yeah.
dos. Gracias.
Cheers.
And thank you everybody that joined us today for En Casa con la Plaza's Dan Guerrero Happy Hour, pre-recorded, but I'm sure you enjoyed it. Please use the Zoom chat feature to let us know who you are, where you're viewing from. Also on Facebook as well, the comment section. And remember, we've recorded it, and you could check it out again if you'd like on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA, on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA, and also on our website at lapca.org. So we'll see you next time in a couple weeks from today. Guest to be announced real soon. So thank you so much. Muy buenas noches. Nos vemos muy pronto. Bye-bye. All right, and I'm back. This is live. Wasn't that great, Susie Garcia? What a lot of energy that she has, bringing it on the stage, bringing it on Dan Guerrero's Happy Hour. And Dan, of course, asking those probing questions and making great conversation. Really enjoyable. And thank you to Pepe as well for joining the Happy Hour, which was pre-recorded. As I said, Dan Guerrero is currently in Sedona, Arizona, his father's home state. Where he's doing a document, he's screening the documentary at the Sedona Film Festival on his father's life and times. Sold out today and selling out again on Saturday. We spoke a little bit about what's next on Dan Guerrero's Happy Hour, and here we go. We have coming up this on Thursday, March 9th at 7 p.m. and it should be live. Hopefully, Dan, I know Dan will be with us. It'll be Dan Guerrero Happy Hour with Anthony Crespo, the Youth Orchestra of LA's program director. The Youth Orchestra of LA is the music education program of the LA Philharmonic, serving 1,700 young musicians, inspired by LA Phil's artistic director, Gustavo Dudamel, who will be departing LA in a few years. But it says Yola at Torres is nestled on the campus of Esteban y Torres High School. And this young man, Anthony Crespo, has an impressive background as an arts administrator, having earned an MA in music industry administration from Cal State Northridge in 2018. And he will be here live with Dan Guerrero on March 9th. I told you about what's going on at La Plaza tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday. No, tomorrow is Friday. God, weekend's coming up. We have Pat Boy Maya Rap there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes at 3:30. He does. We're gonna have a marimba band. We're gonna have some dancers and a conversation, and then a performance by Pat Boy Maya Rap. And he was featured in Black Panther's Wakanda Forever. Okay, let me get out of here. It's been a long day. Anyway, before I go, I keep saying I'm going, but I'm going this time. I have a favor to ask. We have a survey going on at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and a way for you to let us know what you're thinking and how we can improve the services that we have there at La Plaza. Here I'm pasting the URL right there. If you want to know how we could engage with you in the community in 2023 and beyond, share your thoughts. There's the link. I'm posting it on our Facebook page. I'm also posting it on the chat feature of the Zoom. And there you go. Please click on that. 25 questions or so. It'll take you about 10-15 minutes to complete. We really want to know what you think so that we can improve the services that we offer to our community, including all of you. Like to thank all that joined us today. We have on Zoom, Barbara Perez Diaz. Thank you for joining us. Esperanza Juarez, Evelyn Perez, and Rebecca Gavaldon. A few people have already left our Zoom. And then here on Facebook, who has joined us? We have Christina Anguiano. Thank you for joining us, Christina. Always a pleasure having you with us. Elda Woodson commented, great show. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. Michelle Coots, always a pleasure having you with us. Cheers, she says. Virginia Romo, love the traditional clothing look, so unique. And yes, La Colibrí certainly come out dressed to impress. Joe Gonzalez, cultural representation evolving is so important. That's correct. Amore Wendy says, good evening. Well, good evening to you, Wendy. Joe Gonzalez, again, greetings, sisters and brothers. Nice to be tuned in. Que viva las mariachis mujeres y la raza. And then Mario Juarez, good evening. Good evening to all of you that joined us today. And we'll see you again soon. Again, March 9th, Dan Guerrero Happy Hour here at En Casa con La Plaza. Y con eso les digo a todos muy buenas noches. Good evening, everybody. And we'll see you real soon. Hasta la próxima. Bye-bye.